Shalom, people. This is Brother Lyles coming at you with another video. And our lesson today will be talking about casting down wicked imaginations. And the reason that uh, this lesson came about was I was thinking uh, many months ago what were some of the similarities to the days of Noah in the times that we're living in, and there were several things that are similar. Talking about the hybrids, genetic mixing, things like that. But one of the things that stood out to me was this scripture coming from Genesis 6:5. We know that Yeshua said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so would it be in the coming of the Son of Man the second time." Genesis 6:5 says this, "And Yah saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." This, my brothers and sisters, is the case of the world that we're living in right now. And it's similar. And actually, I think it's worse than the time of Noah, because we have these devices, the cell phone, television, laptops, desktops. We have these devices that uh, show what images. It shows us images. It creates imagination in us. Some good, yes, like the image you're seeing right now, me teaching Yah's word. But for the most part, a lot of the internet is used for things that, you know, do harm people. Online pornography does harm a lot of people. Online gambling does harm a lot of people. Illegal transactions, cyber crimes, all of this stuff, it hurts people. Kill some too. Yes, you can kill somebody's reputation online. People can be bullied online to the point that they'll literally lose their mind and go commit suicide. So it's so many imaginations, images that are coming on uh, online, and people are downloading this stuff into their spirit, and we got to learn how to cast it down. We got to learn how to cast these images down. Let's see what Second Corinthians, the 10th chapter, had to say about casting down wicked imaginations. This is the Apostle Paul, or Shaul. "Now I, Paul, myself beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of Yeshua." I'm sorry, the gentleness of Messiah, who in presence am base among you, but being absent am bold toward you. But I beseech you that I may not be bold when I am present with that confidence wherewith I think to be bold against some which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh. But though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Yah to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of Yah, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Messiah, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. And so this is Apostle Paul talking about we must uh, uh, understand the warfare that we're in is not a fleshly fight. It is a spiritual fight. And in this spiritual fight, the weapons that we have through Yah are mighty. They're mighty to the point that we can pull down some of these strongholds. What strongholds are we talking about? Verse 5 tells us, casting down imaginations. Casting down imaginations. Remember what I said, the time that we're living in, we are bombarded with what over our cell phones, our televisions, our laptops, images, wicked images, a lot of images of wickedness. Now we understand that we must keep carrying on the times. There's no doubt about that. We need to know about the things that are affecting other nations, that are affecting this nation. We need to understand, the things that the government is putting out about this pandemic, so that we can try to be in compliance with it. But what happens is these images is overloading a lot of us and is creating instances of mental illness. It's creating instances of demon possession, and a lot of people are being overwhelmed with it. And so, as the apostle Paul or Shaul said, we must learn how to cast down these imaginations out of our mind. We must learn how to pull them down, because some of these imaginations have grown into strongholds. Let's go back to that scripture. He said, casting down these not only imaginations, but also high things that exalt themselves against the knowledge of Yah, without going into maybe getting a strike on my channel. What high thing that exalt itself against the knowledge of God? Well, we know it's certain immoral things that we know the Bible states are immoral, that are not to be done by men and men, or women and women, that these ideologies and things have become high things that are now exalting itself against the knowledge of Yah, saying we don't care what Yah says about this thing. We're gonna lift it up. We're gonna lift it up and promote this thing. We're gonna promote this immorality. We're gonna exalt it against what Yah's word says. All we have to do is go to the book of Romans, the first chapter, where it talks about men holding the truth of Yah in unrighteousness, knowing that what they're saying is not true, that is going against what Yah says, but yet they are promoting wickedness when they know it's wickedness, but they're telling everybody, there is no Yah, there is no Yeshua, there is none of this, and you can do whatever you want, you can be whatever you want, and it's exalting itself against the night. Why? Because they're bombarding us with it. These people that are bombarding us with these wicked imaginations, that are bombarding us with these high things that exalt itself against Yah, know what they're doing. They're trying to overload your mind. They're trying to pull you down. They're trying to create a stronghold in you that will hold you in place. Just sort of like this quarantine, which is shutting down economies of many nations. And even if they was able to try to bring the economies back online like they want to, which they're not going to be able to, because we can see that with the fluctuation that has been going on in the last couple of days, with the reports about the 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 rise in cases with this pandemic, that eventually is gonna crash. It's gonna crash, not just countries, but it's gonna crash this global economy. It's gonna crash. It's because it's gonna create a stronghold that, and we know, which this will be a lesson from another day, that the powers that be want to do this so they can do the phoenix on us, where they crash it, and then out of the ashes of the crashed economy comes the new economy that they want, right? That's what they want. Not saying that they're gonna get it or whatever, but that's what they want to do, and they're gonna do it through these wicked imaginations. They're gonna do it through these wicked high things that assault themselves against Yah. Like I said, this month of June, what month is this? Without me going in and getting a strike on my channel, you know what this month is. This is a high thing that is exalting itself against, I think we talked about high places. So high thing, high place is the same thing. High things, these ideologies, these some of these movements that they are pushing out there, that are going against what we know Yah stated is immoral and sinful. They're exalting. But what else? He said, um, he said, and bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of the Messiah. And so all these thoughts, all of this stuff that they're bombarding, Paul said we got to bring it into, we got to pull them back in, and instead of them holding us in a stronghold, we got to pull these, we got to pull these thoughts and put them in jail. These thoughts that they're sending our way, we got to, as a lot of times, when I'm praying, I pray, I say, Father, take these thoughts, take these spirits and cast them into the abyss. Cast them like the 2,000 spirits or demons that were in the demoniac. What did they ask Yeshua? They said, have you come to torment us before the time? Meaning, have you came to send us into the lake of fire or whatever? And they said, suffer us to go into the swine. And Yeshua said, okay, you can go into the swine because the swine's unclean. And we know that once they got in the swine went off the cliff. And the Bible said they went into the deep. But if you go and look in the Greek, that word deep is the word abuso, from which we get the abyss. Now, the abyss is a special compartmental place in hell that's beyond the fiery Gehenna. That's where the regular people, that die in their sins go. But there were some spirits that sinned during the flood, these fallen angels in this place called Tartarus, or the abyss, which is below that. And also where Judas at. Now the Bible said that Judas went to his own place. So Judas is not in a regular burning hell. He's in a special place right along in the same instance as those fallen angels that mated with human women. They're in the place where they're at In fact, that's what I know I'm getting off the subject, but that's what CERN is trying to do. CERN is trying to go into Tartarus. It's trying to go into the abyss and pull these spirits out because they're so powerful. They're trying to literally pull them out. Well, anyway, those 2000 when those pigs went and dived into the water, apparently, and they drowned and they died. Those demons, they went into the Abuso. They went down there. And so this is what we need to do. We need to, when these thoughts come, we do not need to hold on to them. We need to cast them out. We need to put them in timeout, permanent timeout away from us. We need to do, and this is not a one-time thing. We must pull these things out of our mind. We must cast them down. We can't dwell on them. We can't dwell on the meaning. Okay, we see the news. We see the things that's going on. But don't you understand that since the study of human psychology back during the Renaissance and all these things, they came up with theories and they came up with formulas, and they came up with plots and plans and stuff on how to manipulate people's minds through images. Even before television, they figured out how to, use just images in books or posters or whatever, and to evoke certain thoughts to get a reaction out of people. And so, because think about the movie Birth of a Nation, what it did, it caused a rise in lynchings of black men, because the images that it portrayed was that of black men, wanting to, have, sex or commit crimes against women of other nations, which was not true. But what it invoked, those images, what they evoked was a rise in recruiting amongst the Klan. So what are we seeing now with the images and stuff that they're putting out over TV and whatever? Which, again, I'm not saying that I don't, that the stuff that they're doing, that, I'm saying, hey, I'm saying that there are bad people out there, because I understand that amongst those protests, there are protesters that are there genuine. So I would never put a blanket statement out there, but we know that within that there are some COINTELPRO elements that are trying to create images out there that's going to stir up certain emotions among people from the images that they're seeing. And that's why you're seeing a rise in recruitment in a lot of right-wing and white supremacist groups because of the images. They're not trying to cast down those images out of their mind. Those images that they're seeing is fueling what was in their heart already, but definitely these images is giving them a sense of urgency. It's giving them a sense of urgency, because they're not casting down the imaginations. There's also within some of our people, making some of our people get a false sense of what is actually going on. Meaning, yeah, I do believe there is some people out there that are, maybe genuinely sorry for all the things that have gone on since we've been in this nation. But some are really just trying to get maybe us, calm down per se or whatever, and hope that it blows over, and that there, they might be bills that are being put forth or whatever, but in the long run, who's to say if the bill is gonna even get to whoever desk it needs to get to be signed, and even if it is signed, that it could even be implemented in some of the police departments or other agencies that they're talking about, because each municipality or state or whatever, they're gonna take whatever is said and craft it according to what their budget and all this other kind of stuff. So, that's be wise, my people, and what you thinking is happening. That if you thinking that the tide is turning or whatever, where, oh yeah, we taking over, baby, and especially when we believe that there's gonna be an exodus out of this place. At least that's what I'm saying that I believe. I'm believing that there's gonna be an exodus. Does that mean that everybody is gonna leave at one time? Obviously, the Bible said only a remnant is gonna be saved. Some people are gonna buy into whatever it is, these images and stuff that they're putting out, and also we see with some of these other groups, and particularly this month, these groups that are associated with this month of June are starting to, you're seeing more and more of their issues being promoted within these protests. Therefore, they're trying to get their due in the spotlight, especially since this is their month, right? And so, what you might end up seeing is just the same thing that happened after the civil rights era, that we as black people got a lot of bills and stuff passed, but when the 70s and 80s came around, it wasn't a lot of us that even was able to use some of those rights, because sometimes people would go in and they would have to go to courts, because it would be certain companies and things that will fight the civil rights legislation. But then we find that other groups that had tacked themselves onto us, they had easier access to those civil rights that we had fought and won in the 60s and 70s. And we end up, I can remember, and I don't want to get out the subject because it is, I want to keep on the wicked imagination, but just getting to that point about the affirmative action and everything, this stuff that we fought to, pull down the ideas of white supremacy and racism and all that stuff. We thought some people thought it had been pulled down because of integration. They thought that all these high things or high places had been pulled down, but it was all the smokescreen, because long comes, a lot of these slots, and a lot of states went to court to fight against them, but it was groups of people that was also calling themselves minorities that benefited a lot of times from slots that we either didn't know existed or didn't take, or we had to fight for, and they ended up benefiting it more from the civil rights legislation than we did. And that is the truth. So let's not be rushing to believe that this stuff is going, not trying to dim your hope, but I'm saying you believing that this stuff is going to be pulled down. When the Bible said the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through Yah to the pulling down of these strongholds, right? You see what I'm saying? But even in that sense, that Yah said that there's gonna be exodus of us out of this place anyway, because it just what the scripture, what the prophecies said about this place, that it would never be healed, that Babylon would not want to want the imaginations. You see how hard they're fighting to keep these images, these statues of their people. You see how hard they're trying to fight. They don't want to cast these things down. And of course we know that it's a spirit behind these things that need to be cast down too. But we understand that even though it's symbolic, there is, I believe, a dent in the and the power of these things just by them being physically pulled down. So there is a shift going on. It is a shift going on, I believe, just like when Babylon literally fell when Daniel was there. The Medes and the Persians were able to get inside the walls of literal Babylon and was able to pull it down. Even though they didn't literally pull the walls of Babylon, they got in under the walls and is able to defeat. But in the spirit, it had been defeated already, and then in the literal. So in the spiritual, I do believe that some of these spirits behind these statues are being cast down, are being pulled down. So in the literal, the those people that might be anarchists, that might be whatever, even though they're literally pulling them down, is because something spiritual before cut down the power that was behind those idols, behind those statues, behind those images, and now they're coming down because they wasn't coming down before, even when they should have came down. Why? Because it was some kind of stronghold that was not letting those things come down literally. But that is the case. And just like I stated in my lesson, coming out of Daniel, talking about Daniel 2, yes. So we got to look at the reverse of our minds as believers, as Hebrews that believe in Yeshua, casting down these wicked imaginations and all those high things that exalt ourselves against the knowledge of Yah. We got to continue to pray for these things that they're trying to lies and innuendos that they're trying to beam toward us. We got to cast them down. One way we cast them down is we just sometimes when these wicked imaginations and high thoughts, high things that they try to put in our mind come, we just gotta sometimes keep our mouth shut, right? Proverbs 30 and 32 said, if thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, or if thou hast thought evil, lie thy hand upon thy mouth. Sometimes we can speak. The enemy might put something in our mind right then, cast an image in our mind or cast a thought in our mind, to maybe use some profanity, or maybe to say or do something. Say something to somebody that we don't need to say or whatever. He said, it's a saying, a thought unborn dies. So if you don't carry forth that thought, or you don't speak forth that thought, it dies in your head. Because sometimes, like I said, these thoughts that's being put into your here are not your thoughts. It's the enemy that's putting some of these thoughts in your head. And if you cast them down, they'll die, right? But if we speak them, we give them life, because what did Yah do to create everything? He spoke it. He said, let there. So it's some thoughts and things that we say that's in our mind that's wicked, that we're giving life to them. That's not to say that if you got illness and somebody asks you, and I know they had this the positive confession. That's not to say that you don't say, hey, yeah, I got cancer. But I'm saying it's a certain kind of way that you say it, I guess, or maybe the whatever. If you state it in a certain kind of way that you don't want to give it life. You understand what I'm saying? You want to put forth some positivity in that, because out of we shall have eat the fruit of what our mouth says. Okay, so you're saying, I can hear someone say, well, you saying if I got stage 4 cancer, I might have found out you know, just suddenly from the doctor that I had it, and he tells me I only got maybe 6 months to a year to live. That I'm going around and being silent about it because I don't want to say I got stage 4 cancer because I'm giving power to it. I'm not saying that you don't tell people. Of course, you want to tell them so they can pray for you or whatever. But you got to be cognizant of if the thoughts overload the imaginations of death and doom and destruction, that you're not also speaking those things out, but that you can speak out. This is what I'm gonna do to fight back against this. This is what I need you to pray for about me for this stage 4 cancer or whatever illness that it is that you might have, and you asking somebody to pray for you in that, because more and more we see people getting knowledge about certain things that they can do if they get the the knowledge in their head about certain treatments and certain therapies outside of regular medicine that they can do to fight against these things. And therefore, if they put these things forth and they start speaking these things, that I have this stage 4 cancer, but this is what I'm getting ready to do. This is what I'm finna do. And this is what I believe. And this is what I need you to pray for. Then you are not giving power to the imagination. The imagination is showing you on your deathbed. The imagination is showing you that, they're going to have to operate and remove this, that, and the other off of you. But that just as the devil can give us evil imaginations, Yah can give us good imaginations. He can give us good imaginations. And therefore, if he put that in there, we can speak that. But we got to be careful when we speak evil imaginations, because we giving them power, right? So, what else can we do dealing with casting down wicked imaginations? Okay, now this is Romans 7:23. He said, but I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin which is in my members. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? I thank Yah through Yeshua Messiah, our Master. So then, with the mind, I myself serve the law of Yah, but with the flesh, the law of sin. So what we see here is Paul talking in the book of Romans that says that we got to understand that because our physical body has not been redeemed, it has a quote unquote mind of its own, in the sense of it more wants to be satisfied by the things of the flesh. But then when we become born again, our spirit man, which is renewed through Yeshua, it comes alive. It has a mind that is governed by the law of Yah that he puts into our quote unquote heart. But they share in the same space. And so, as the fact that you are a babe in you're not understanding that evil is still gonna be there to try to pull you away. Just because you born again doesn't mean that you ain't gonna get thoughts and things like that. But you gotta learn how to cast these things down. You gotta learn how to move in such a way in your in your spiritual exercises of prayer and fasting, and putting yourself in a position for Yah to empower you, to help you to war against the law of the mind of the law of your mind of this flesh that you is a scripture that said exercise yourself unto righteousness, that you have to build yourself up. Because I used to I look at myself when I first got saved, or whatever you want to call it back then, is you think, okay, um man, if any thought come to my mind that's not of Yah, that must mean I'm lost or whatever. But you don't understand that what Yah is doing when He allows the enemy to oppress you like that. He's trying to get you to first depend on Him, not depend on yourself, and to pray and to strengthen yourself, get yourself so that you won't be a babe on milk. Because a lot of time when you young in the faith, Yah shelter you a little bit. He'll shelter you from certain things, but then as you start growing, He'll start letting stuff come your way. He'll start letting stuff come, and so that you can you can start warring. You gotta fight. That's one of the things that I really learned in the last year or so, is that a lot of the believers' life is that of war, if you are a real believer, because Satan is constantly going to be trying you. And that's why I think it's the book of Hebrews where it said that Yah will make a way of escape, or He'll help you to bear up underneath it what the enemy brings. And so we can't believe that when we become believers that all negative thoughts and everything is going to go away on their own. We got to war against them. We got to cast them down. We got to know that it's there. And then as we get stronger, what we do, Paul said, we strive for the mastery, where we can lessen the grip that these wicked imaginations and how things exalt themselves against Yah have over us. But at the beginning, that might not be so, and you might be struggling, saying, "Hey, man, I don't know where all this crazy stuff is coming. It's coming to test you, right?" So, said, because Paul said, I think Yah through Yeshua, that with the mind I myself serve the law of Yah. But I'm pretty sure when Paul started out, that wasn't the case. But he had got to a place right now where because remember he said, walk in the Spirit so you won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. How do you think Paul found out about that? He found out for himself. So he was trying to tell you the same thing. When you start off in this thing, it's gonna be a battle. It's sort of like when you're on a bicycle and you come to the bottom of a steep hill. When you first start riding that bicycle, right? Going up that hill is gonna be slow until you get to the top, and then you get to the top, then you start going down. You go faster, but going up, it's gonna be tough. You got to keep paddling one paddle at a time until you get to the top, but you don't give up. But once you get to the top, then you can coast down. So it is that way with us in our spiritual. Sometimes we have to push through some of these thoughts and things that they're sending our way or whatever, until we can get to the top, and then we can coast down. And there's certain things, thoughts and stuff that the enemy can send your way that you can just bat them to the side. They don't bother you. But then there's certain other things right now that some of you can't handle. But once you get strengthened in it, way, you'll be able to just push those thoughts and stuff away, right? Then we go to Romans 8, 6, and 7. Paul says this, for to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against